Okay, which country produces the greatest comedians? Well, funny you should ask. The answer's next on Brio TV, the podcast. You'd think a Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame would date back to the 1950s in the days of Wayne and Schuster, The Happy Gang, Max Ferguson, and Dave Broadfoot, or maybe even further back to early screen stars such as Marie Dressler and comedy film pioneer Max Sennett. So many knuckleheads have emerged since then. Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, Dan Aykroyd, the Royal Canadian Air Force, the cast of SCTV, The Kids in the Hall, Samantha Bee, Seth Rogen, and on and on. Here is the shocker, however. Trying to build an actual Canadian Hall of Fame for Canadian comedians, it's been no laughing matter. If it wasn't for today's guest and his steadfast determination to salute these great clowns, there would be no hall for the kids to have been enshrined in. Please join me for my conversation with actor, comedian, and determined Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame builder, Tim Progosh. Good to meet you this morning, Tim. It's
yes.
Happy to celebrate the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. Thank you very much for taking some time. I know your big event is on the horizon. You must be very excited.
I'm incredibly excited, and we just found out this morning that we got our charitable status number, which helps the organization a lot moving forward.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Well, we'll get into all that. But let me just introduce you. Of course, you're the executive director of the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame, and you've acted in so many Canadian TV shows. I can't believe you and I don't think I've really spoken or I've done an interview before, so glad to finally catch up.
And it's an honor to catch up with you, because you're one of the reasons why we have an entertainment industry is people like yourself taking the time to find out and give us shine a little bit of light on the Canadian entertainment scene, especially television and film.
Yeah, it's a very worthy cause. Thank you for that, Tim. But my goodness, hats off to you. You've been the guy. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be a Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. This is a story of perseverance, and let's get into that. First of all, let me say, I'm looking at you, and behind you is a poster of the Great White North, very Bob and Doug. That's very cool, very fitting.
Yeah, it's one of our activations, and in the long journey, there was 1 year where we got some Ontario funding to test market interactive exhibits to see if a permanent home could have appeal if people would go on. And this is one of the exhibits we created, and we're still using it. Actually, we have an activation at Union Station and the Bay Concourse tomorrow.
Wow.
Where we're setting up the Great White North set. So,
okay. Well, you and I are talking and getting into the third week of January. How long is that installation up for?
Oh, just 1 day. It's just tomorrow, a pop-up installation to go into a place and do. We have 2 or 3 of those planned. Like, we're going to go to some retirement homes and hospice in Hamilton, a couple of breweries to promote the event in February.
Wow, that's great. Hamilton is the place. So this is where, for the next 3 years, I understand, you have an agreement with the folks that run, the mayor, everybody involved, the government levels, to host the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame, right?
That is correct. We did a show 2 years ago in November. It was taped for television at the Royal York. Some people approached us to do it, and we did some inductions. And I churned that in because I have a lot of experience, and I was on the board of Festival Events Ontario, and I produced a lot of things, maybe too many. But I created a request for proposal, and I shopped it around to a few cities, Toronto, Ottawa, Niagara Falls, and Hamilton. And it turns out that Hamilton's got a major push to redevelop the downtown. They're redoing the arena, they're redoing the convention center, and they're looking for events to attract. And so the difference with them was they offered a 3-year commitment, which is crucial to the success of any event.
Yeah, no kidding. And not only that, at least two of the inductees this year in your Hall of Fame are proud Hamilton, sons of Hamilton. I'm thinking Martin Short and Eugene Levy, right? Am I leaving anybody else out from Hamilton?
Billy Van and Steve Smith.
Oh my goodness, Steve Smith, of course. You can't say Hamilton without Smith.
This is Bill. I just want to be clear that this is. We didn't go there because these people were inducted.
Oh no.
No. One of the things that well, if I have any pride in this at all, it would be because of the integrity of the process to get people inducted. I ran the Canadian Comedy Awards for 17 years. And it's, if you don't have the integrity, if people don't think, so we have an industry voting process, we have a process. And so it's not like you pay to get in. It's not like you show up and you get in.
No,
you get in by a voting and a nomination process.
Yeah, and that's you open that out to all members of the people who want to join in into this venture with the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. They get to vote, and it's a great process. You cast a wide net. I was thrilled to see Marie Dressler, the biggest star in the world in 1930. She was the number one box office attraction from Coalburg, Ontario. She's a proud, she's an inductee now. And I think that's very exciting that you represent people no longer with us who are on the Mount Rushmore of comedy and should be there and need to be, people need to be reminded of just how vital they were as Canadians to Hollywood.
Well, everybody thinks of the current stars, the Jim Carrey, the Eugene Levy, the Martin Shorts. As Canada was never like this, but when I grew up, it was Wayne and Schuster, and then the Sonny and Cher show, which was created by Pepe at Nailsworth.
Yeah,
and then you go back, and there's people who aren't in who should be. Beatrice Lilly. There's lots of people. Like it's never ending when it gets to the people who influence from Canada, influence comedy around the world.
Max Senet's from Quebec. He invented film comedy.
The pie in the face is his.
Yeah, the Keystone Cops. Tim, where did this all start for you? When did you think, wow, you know what? I can't believe that there isn't already a Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame.
We opened a television production company in the year 2000, and one of the things I wanted to start was a Canadian Comedy Awards and a Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame. And the impetus for that, there's two main reasons. One was the tremendous sense of pride that I had I remember as a kid watching the Ed Sullivan Show with my father, and seeing Wayne and Schuster on it, knowing that they were on it more than any other act, and knowing that this show showcased them, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the greatest comics. It gave me a sense of pride in the country. The next thing would be watching a stand-up show at the Laugh Resort a long, long time ago with Gilbert Gottfried, and I was very excited to see Gilbert Gottfried. But the opening act, who was a friend of mine, Mike Wilmot, was way funnier. and going back to hiccups on Rideau Street, going in to see, we snuck in as underage kids, with fake IDs, going in to see Jimmy J.J. Walker.
Yes.
But the host that night was Mike McDonald.
Oh my God.
And we became such fans of Mike McDonald. So it often bothered me that these people who were funnier and more talented, great entertainers and nice people, we're not getting the recognition they deserved in Canada. Quite often they have to leave and come back, and that was a big thing for me politically to see that if you went away, you were famous.
Yeah,
and if you stayed in Canada, you weren't. So we try to balance both those things in our organization. Like you can go away and be famous, but then you have, Billy Van was famous more for the House of Frightenstein and Party Game than he was for the Sonny and Cher show.
Oh, and he was one of the headliners of CBC comedy shows in the 60s, a tremendous legacy, Billy Van. You mentioning Mike McDonald brought back memories for me. Tim, you and I, despite my long white beard, we're about the same age. And I, way, way, way back in the day with my buddy Pat Bullock, we did some stand up in and around Toronto, and we would go to Yuck Yucks and Tickles and the Cafe on the Park and all these long Alistair's, places that are long gone. and I'd see Mike McDonald and would be almost terrified by him. He was an imposing presence, and his sense of humor was so personal, and it was fascinating to watch. And then getting to talk to him a little bit, the great discovery was that he was actually a very empathetic guy who often would take time to counsel young comedians. Not always, but sometimes, which was pretty good back then. So I do have memories of that scene and how vital it was, and how Howie Mandel really drove the stake in a lot of that in 1980 or 79, 81 to sort of put a lot of that comedy live showcase on the map. So exciting that you were able to witness that, and I can see how that would have inspired you for sure.
And then, of course, going to Second City School, I graduated from political science and drama, and then went into the Second City program. And in my class were both Mike Myers and Kevin McDonald from the Kids in the Hall.
Wow!
And I went back to Ottawa, and I said, and I studied with David Shepard, one of the founders of improv from the Compass Players before there was a Second City. And I said, we could do this in Ottawa. And we set up a comedy contest, oddly called the Just for Laughs Comedy Contest. And we got the winners together and created a troupe. And we ran for 3 years in Ottawa as the Just for Laughs Comedy Review. Then I moved to Toronto and got a new gang, and we were 500 miles off Broadway. And we were at the Pilot Tavern for like 8 years.
A Pilot. Great hamburgers back in the day, man.
Oh, yeah. Real fries.
Real fries, home fries, they cut up in squares. Are you originally from Ottawa?
Yes.
Wow. And did you happen to see ever Norm Macdonald on stage in Ottawa? I know that he was kind of known for starting out there, right?
Well, one of the biggest stars in our troupe at the time was a fellow by the name of Urs Strange, and he was the biggest comic in Ottawa after Mike McDonald. Like, he was doing very well there, him and Chris Finn. And I went to see, they were having an all Ottawa show, so I went to see my friend Yuri, and Norm was on the show. And I went, this guy is just like, his first thing is his look above the audience. He never really looked at anybody. And I remember it was the wiener dog story he told about the wiener. The only way a wiener dog would protect you is if you fell down and hit your head on the coffee table and your jugular vein was exposed. But yeah, he came out of nowhere, but it didn't take him long to become famous because he was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I hear that he was so awkward. He was trying to affect accents. He was doing stuff originally back then that I talked to his brother Neil once, who Neil and Norm said Neil was the funny one in the family. And he said Norm was brutal at the beginning, but certainly became the greatest stand-up. So amazing story.
And Jeremy Hotz, the same sort of story. He's like he's famous in the United States. He's a great comic. I've used him in our festivals many times, but he started out as a jester on the Majesty's Feast in Manotick, Ontario.
Oh my
and
God!
The Queen was she became my wife, and she was in our comedy troupe, and so that's how I knew him. And then he went through a phase where he used to do this thing about a Russian weightlifter, and he had long hair, and he said he looked like Tiny Tim, and he was doing this bit, and then it wasn't that funny. And then you'd go out after and you'd talk to him, and he was just so sarcastic and biting and hilarious.
Yes.
That finally he just did that on stage. The rest is history. Just boom.
So droll and deadpan, right? Very, very original style. It's all his own. A lot of great stories here. Don't go away. We'll be back with Tim in just a moment. The second season of the compelling crime thriller Hidden Assets returns to Super Channel for its exclusive Canadian premiere on Sunday, February 11th at 9 p.m., with each episode also available on Super Channel On Demand. This Irish-Belgian-Canadian co-production is a must-watch for aficionados of crime thrillers. In Season 2 of this Super Channel original, Criminal Asset Bureau's new team lead Claire Wallace finds herself at odds with CTU's Christian de Jong over the Antwerp investigation. And speaking of hidden assets, Quebecer and Brio TV favorite Karine Vaness is among the Canadians on Season 2 of this drama. And remember, Super Channel, an all-Canadian service, is available via most cable providers across the country, as well as streaming live and on demand with Amazon Prime Video channels, Apple TV Plus, and the Roku platform in Canada. With Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame Executive Director Tim Progosh. So you came from Ottawa and Toronto, but where did this begin for you? In high school, you wanted to be an actor, you wanted to be a comedian. How did that evolve?
Well, no, actually, I have to thank my brother for this. Second year at Western University, I did some plays in grade 7 and 8, but I was a jock, and I wanted to be prime minister. That was my goal. I wanted to be a lawyer and be prime minister. That was my kid goal. And then I was in second year at university. I was going to try out for the Western football team, and I broke my wrist before camp started. And I was too small and too slow anyway, really. And my brother said to me, okay, because I acted in his movies. He was a filmmaker, and he graduated from Ryerson in film and stuff. Wow. And but when we were little kids, we had a Super 8 camera. We'd make movies. But he just looked at me, he says, why don't you stop this jock stuff? You're never going to make it. You're too small and you're too slow, but you're really good actor and you're really good. So get into that. So I took drama, and then I took the Second City classes, and then I got Shea 106 in Ottawa, convinced that doing a citywide comedy contest was a good idea, hosted by Delmer and Cecil, two local. There was their character names at Shea 106, and that started. And then I got right into it. Opened a comedy club in Ottawa. It burned down in a fire. Came to Toronto.
On purpose, or did somebody have a bad set? What happened? How did that?
I think it was it was a restaurant on Bank Street, and when they took all the stuff that was salvaged to a warehouse, the warehouse burnt down.
Oh my God!
So there was something going on there, but I took it as a sign, and my partner and I left, and we didn't have a troupe, so we started doing stand-up as a stand-up duo. We were, Larry Horowitz named us T&A, Tim and Angela.
Nice.
And we toured for about 15, 16 years. Then she stopped when we had our children, and then we continued doing sketch the whole time, though. Always did all the fringe festivals. And for me, it was like, I really loved the sketch. I really loved the improv, and I was into Brady Bunch Live, and you'd see Colin Mockery on stage. He played my dad.
Wow.
And it was my admiration for them. Mm-hmm. And the fact that can nobody take the time to acknowledge how good they are? He praises on hockey players and and they're a shy bunch too. But I do notice that when comics or actors are talking about other fellow Canadians, they'll praise them, but they won't draw a lot of attention to themselves. So basically, I figured this was something that should be done. It just should be done. So that's.
Comedy is always devalued. It seems if there's Academy Awards or something, the funny film doesn't win. Yet comedy's hard, dying is easy. Isn't that what is that expression?
That's
So why somebody like Martin Short did not win an Emmy last night, who is beyond brilliant every single time, the greatest talk show guest of all time, and yet Steve Martin jokes about how he has a bunch of awards and Martin Short really does not. It doesn't make any sense. So you're trying to address that with this venture, right?
Absolutely. What's in comedy is also the Paul Gross. I tried to do a show called Inside Comedy once, and we interviewed Paul Gross, and he turned around and he said it's tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Right.
And they have a dramatic and a happy mask. And my comedy troupe's slogan was where comedy meets theater. And the scene is more important than the laugh.
Yeah.
And all the great shows, if you think of any, I watch when I have nothing to do, I'll watch Frasier or Cheers still.
Yeah.
Because it's the situation comedy that really gets you into the character and you understand them and you care about them. And it's real situations of life. And yes, they should be winning awards. I mean, there's great movies. I mean, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Tropic Thunder, which will never win anything.
Won't win now. No. Yeah.
No. But it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and there's all those movies where they have a sense of heart, where you get the heart from the comedy. They call them rom-coms or whatever. But when Adam Sandler, even Happy Gilmore, you care about the guy.
Tim, 2 words: John Candy. I mean, what a tremendous actor. And Uncle Buck, you're just so moved. And Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
Yes.
Yet the funniest man ever. And so, my goodness, what great example is that?
And we're very fortunate. That was one of the first things that I suggested to the programming committee, is that let's do an Uncle Buck brunch for families.
That's a great idea.
So we're
what do you serve?
We're the Carmen's group here, that is one of the main sponsors of the event. They have a catering business. They're going to make the Hamilton. It wouldn't be the world's biggest pancake because that was the size of a football field. I looked into it.
Wow.
But I'm sure it's the biggest in Hamilton. We're going to have a huge pancake and a buffet. They're going to have slices of that. Chris and Jennifer Candy are coming up to host with Aurora Brown.
His children?
And yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a presentation of the movie with the Q&A after because we're trying to involve some more family events.
When is that happening, Tim?
So the Saturday morning at 11 o'clock at the convention center as part of the festival. That would be the 24th.
Okay. That's a great venture. You're doing so much of this stuff. From what I understand, your desire to, at one point, you thought, I'm going to be prime minister, I'm going to be a politician, I'm going to be a lawyer. But it seems that those desires are very integral to what you're trying now, because if you're not a politician, if you don't understand obtaining status as a not-for-profit, if you don't understand how this works, because in Canada, the built-in layers of bureaucracy to achieve anything is sometimes staggering. So I think you would agree, having that as part of who you are, part of your makeup, it's almost more important than being funny.
Absolutely. It's Liam Neeson in the movie Taken, he's on the phone and he says, I have a unique skill set. And sometimes it's taken 23 years of work on this one project. But right now, I can honestly say I have a unique skill set that I'm confident in my ability to deal with all levels of government. I've known lots of people, Dalton McGuinty, in his campaign. I worked with lots of different politicians over the years and got to know them. It was bred into me because in 1967 or 65, it started. The meetings for Centennial were planned in my living room because my father was a big supporter. They didn't have air conditioning in the House of Commons. So John Monroe and Alan McKechen and their staff would come to our living room.
Wow.
And they planned Centennial. And so I got a taste for it very early on. And the belief that my father told me that if something is good and will benefit a lot of people and you stick with it, it will happen. That's what government is for. Wow. And so all the others, but it's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Well, let's talk about some of the obstacles. This is quite a story, really. I mean, I know from the little I know that when you started originally laying the tracks for this event, this Hall of Fame, you had things all lined up and you were about to honor people. And then September 11th, 2001, the 9/11 occurs right around the time you're about to plan something, right?
Absolutely. And we were doing the Canadian Comedy Awards and the Canadian Comedy Hall of Fame as a joint thing to try to the past and the present. And then we didn't get enough funding. It all dried up. So we decided, it was our company at the time, we decided to just focus on the present, because that's where TV opportunities were. And we were a television production company. So that went well for a long time. And then whenever we got a little bit of money, we started investigating and investing in the business plan for the permanent home. And so we invested a good chunk of money over 10 years with Cubic International, did the business plan. They're the largest museum, or one of the largest museum build companies in the world. And they told us what it should be, where it should be. In fact, their creative director, Scott Greenwood, who tragically passed away shoveling snow last March, and I really miss him. Yeah. But he was the creative inspiration that said, you don't want glass cases and just artifacts. You want interactive experiences so people can have their comedy moment. And if they understand their comedy moment, and you then you educate why Canadians are so good at that moment, because of their reference level, because it's cold here and you have to be funny to live in the cold climate.
Right.
But I mean, it's that sense of, so we spent a lot of time doing that. We got close with up at Woodbine. They were going to do a live development, and now they're developing it up at Woodbine. But back in, between 2008, 2012, we were with a group out of the United States that was going to build a big, huge thing with a replica of the Rideau Canal skating rink, and it was a big to do. And we thought we were on our way. And then, there was a recession, and they moved their money away. We came close with a couple. I don't know if you remember this, Bill. There was a couple of cities had a real desire to have casinos downtown, and we were part of some of that. And then that went away. Nobody wanted them downtown. And then we were very, very close in Niagara Falls. We even got purchased a piece of land, and that didn't go through. And then it all went for naught. And it was during COVID that when my father passed away and I couldn't go see him, I said, I got to do a tribute to him. I got to get this going again.
Amazing.
Get it.
Yeah. Well, condolences on the loss of your dad, but what a wonderful way to honor him. And boy, Niagara Falls, you guys screwed up. That place needs something like this. If you visit there lately, some corners look kind of down on their heels. Like it kind of would be a big shot in the arm. So that's a missed opportunity, but good for Hamilton for stepping up.
And yes, and downtown is perfect for it here.
Yeah. And Tim, have you been to the comedy, is it the National Comedy Museum in Jamestown, New York, or whatever it's called?
No, I have not. I'm going to be going this summer for sure.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'm curious about it, and I wondered if you had been there, if that was something that was a model for you moving forward. But
we were before them. Actually, our research took place before that. With it predates that institution.
Yeah.
And we had plans, we test marketed in 2015, the Great White North set, a stand-up comedy stage that was interactive, where you went on and you could hear noise and you got the light and you had 2 minutes to create it, and the crowd either booed or laughed, and it was all artificial. We want to get the Air Force cannon out of the storage and you could take your phone and project. And so you'd be shooting stuff in this can, shooting at maybe your teacher or your boss, or God forbid your spouse. But
that's funny. I just I wonder, in this day and age, and given all the hurdles and challenges, why is it important to have a brick and mortar place? Could it all be virtual, or do you feel it really has to have a home?
The virtual is what we were focusing on, and then the festival has accelerated that. But to have a place for an educational opportunity, Southwestern Ontario, we knew this from our research way back when, within a 5-hour drive, there's over 15 million people. There's millions of students that come and experience Toronto and then the drive to Niagara Falls. So if we can create a stop, a 45-minute timed experience to walk around a museum and learn something, and find out that as Canadians of all very diverse group, I mean, we have a litany of different immigration waves that shaped our comedy. We have original indigenous people that had their own sense of humor. We have French. The French sense of humor is so totally different.
Yeah.
And we've been influenced by this juggernaut to the south that has influence, and by Britain. But to have a place of our own where people can go in and find out that Stephen Leacock was, more people know who Stephen Leacock was than the country of Canada between 1915 and 1917.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned Marie Dressler and all these people. They people don't know that the biggest Happy Gang are being inducted this year. They would get 2 million listeners on CBC back in the day when Canada was like it's astounding.
My dad would talk about the Happy Gang all the time, and radio was a big deal. I remember listening to Bob and Ray growing up on CFRB, but Happy Gang was just a bit ahead of that. Don't go away. We'll be back with Tim in just a moment. Well, time once again to check in with our friend Emily Gagne at Hollywood Suite. Emily, Happy New Year. What do you got for us now?
Well, Bill, we're blasting off into 2024 with genre fare. We're talking sci-fi, we're talking horror, we're talking the freakiest and the most fun movies you can think of. Everything from Beetlejuice to Blade, we've got on our channels this month.
Wow, Blade scares me. What's the freakiest sci-fi film you've got, though?
Sci-fi, I mean, we've got 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know if that's the freakiest, but it's a classic. We've got Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But I really think if you want something weird and wonderful, we have this film called 976 Evil, which is directed by Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund.
Well, that's the number, 976 Evil. You can find it on Hollywood Suite. Emily, thanks for the tip.
Thanks, Bill.
Well, did you know that it was June Carter Cash who wrote one of Johnny Cash's biggest hits, Ring of Fire? That's just one of the things you'll learn watching June, streaming this month on Paramount+. June shines a spotlight on the history of country music and the Carter and Cash families. The 5-time Grammy Award-winning singer, actor, and author has opened for Elvis, appeared on screen with Robert Duvall and Jane Seymour, and as mentioned, was a damn fine songwriter. Featuring interviews with the woman herself, the film also includes sit-downs with her family, admirers, and friends, including Dolly Parton, Reese Witherspoon, and Willie Nelson. And remember, there's a mountain of premium entertainment for audiences of all ages on Paramount+. And we're back with Tim. A lot of towns like, Stephen Leacock's from Aurelia and Dressler from Coburg, they often had these little, places there, museums where they would pay tribute or have books. They were little pockets of museums. Yep. And this idea of yours seems to be one that would gather all of that in one spot, right?
Well, and yes, and we have an agreement we're formalizing with YouTube to digitize a lot of stuff, and they would store it for us. We're just working out the details, and we're going to try to announce it, at the festival. It's a big deal because Michael McGee, Fred C. Dobbs used to do a show on TV Ontario where he'd play all the characters. It was hilarious. My brother and I watched it. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. All gone. All the tapes gone.
Yeah.
Uncle William Floyd in Ottawa, the CJOH building burned down. All that stuff gone. So we want to offer to anybody who has their material that we would store it and house it and digitally and forever, and it wouldn't deteriorate. So that's one of our goals.
I've got a 16 millimeter print of a Telescope episode from the 60s where the the subject is Rich Little, I can donate that.
That'd be great. Well, you see, and you've got quite an archive and a reference for all this stuff in the past, Bill.
It's tough and it's heartbreaking, as you say, how much is lost. If you look into the history of children's TV, which is a glorious one in Canada, nothing exists of so many of the shows I grew up as a kid watching. CBC has a great archive, so thank goodness that's where Friendly Giant lives and Mr. Dress Up. But and they have CBC was home to a lot of Canadian comedy. So Billy Van did I can't remember the name of it now, but it was late night nightcap, I think, and he was one of the players on that, and they exist. This Hour is 7 Days had some moments. It's cool to see the black and white stuff. And of course, all the Wayne and Schuster legacy. You've already honored them. And Air Farce, our good friend Don Ferguson there, has 300 episodes of radio and TV that go back for 50 years now. So you really do want to honor and salute all of that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And then part of our mandate as well is to look into. Here's a question for you. Yeah. We have some of the greatest comic minds in the world come out of Canada. And aside from Les Boys and Bon Cop, Bad Cop, it's hard to find a blockbuster English language, and they were French, but an English language comedy movie. Yet, Frank Van Keeken was story editor on Mad About You, and Brian Hart and Gary Campbell ran Mad TV, and we have all these, where are the Canadian made movies in Canada? Yeah, we have the talent. We have so much, and all the people are in all the movies. If you look at a great comedy movie that's shot here, you'll see the Neil Crones and the Sean Cullens and Linda Cashes,
Yep, absolutely. Well, they all went to the States. A lot of them, they were too busy making Mad About You. Even if you look at the history of sitcoms in Canada, it's funny. While America did it for 70 years, we had King of Kensington and Trouble with Tracy and nothing until Corner Gas.
Exactly. And
it's shocking.
King of Kensington, Al Waxman, who's a nominee, and our nominees stay on the ballot for 5 years.
Okay.
And they can still get in by a unanimous vote of the board after they've been on the ballot for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
But Al Waxman, I had a friend of mine in university, he came from Jamaica, and his introduction to Canadian life was the King of Kensington. He understood and learned more from that show.
Wow.
So it's interesting. And people don't, and we had Trouble with Tracy was, every bit as good as Mary Hartman, I thought anyway.
Well, it depends how many beers, Tim, I think.
or back then they weren't legal, but other substances.
Exactly. Yes. So but there is certainly, my God, there should be a Mount Rushmore with so many great Canadians on it. Leslie Nielsen, of course, people that just make you laugh every single time. It's a great idea. Tim, what's your favorite joke? Tell me a joke.
Most of them are off color, but there's this joke that I said I can't tell that one. Listen,
I'll start it. Okay, I'll start you off. Okay. My favorite joke is: did you hear about the man with 5 penises?
No,
pants fit him like a glove.
See, that's good. Yeah, I'll tell a kid's joke.
Let me give credit. That's a Phyllis Diller joke to credit the source. So go ahead.
So I don't know who the source is, but this is for kids. What do you call Batman and Robin when they've been run over by a steamroller?
I don't know. What do you call them?
Flat Man and Ribbon.
Okay, see, that's a perfect kids joke.
Yeah,
that would kill with kids for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I use that one. Yeah.
Tell me now, you're going to have an event in February. A lot of stuff going on. There's almost like a week of activities. Could you set that up with what you have planned? I know Ron James, the great Canadian road warrior of comedy, is involved. What's happening?
So Wednesday night, we kick it off with a gala dinner where we're going to induct Marie Dressler, Rose Willette, and the Happy Gang. Wow. It's hosted by Sean Majumder and Ashley Leggett. from Life with Derek,
Yeah.
and she's a Hamiltonian. And Ron James is in concert. We have a band called Steinwall that's going to be playing music. We're going to introduce our interactive exhibits. We're going to have the fruit stands set from Letterkenny, our Great White North set, and a tribute to the House of Frightenstein. And that's that night. And not a silent auction, an auction where we've got private improv lessons from Colin Mockery and a walk-on part in a Hallmark movie to auction off. And then Thursday night, we have two shows we're very proud of at the studio at the First Ontario Centre. And it's Nous sommes bilingues, where it'll be Julian Dion, Keisha Brownie, and Mike Patterson performing totally in French.
Wow.
And then that's followed by Gotland, which is Janelle Niles' Indigenous show. It's a great program that she's put together that's touring the country. And in the show, Don Kelly's going to be the feature. And then Friday night is what we're calling our Hamilton tribute, where Pat McKenna and Graham Greene are hosting a show where we pay tribute to Billy Van and Steve Smith, and the show is going to be closed by a 50th anniversary performance by Teenage Head.
Wow, fantastic! That's amazing.
But Saturday is, and I'll let you. Here's the secret that's on the street now. So we have the Uncle Buck breakfast. We have podcasts every day. We have a lot of different things going on. The exhibit room will be open all the time. But Saturday night, we're going to try to create the greatest Canadian late night talk show that never happened. And we're going to pay tribute to all those guys who tried, from Alan Hamill and Alan Thicke to Ralph Ben-Murgy to Peter Zowski to Mike Bullard. And then we're going to introduce Sean Majumder as the new host of the Great Canadian talk show. He's going to come out, and the whole format of the inductions of all the people we mentioned before, the Jim Carrey, Eugene Levy, will happen that night, as well as performances by Elvira Kurt and Sterling Scott, some sketches.
Wow.
And then the key to this is the house band for the show is Blue Rodeo.
Oh my God. That's incredible. What night is that?
That's Saturday night. That's our closing gala.
And the date of that is
24th.
Okay.
24th.
Where do people get tickets to all of this?
CanadianComedyHall.com has all the links to the various events, including the Funniest Person in Hamilton finale and the shows at Levity Comedy Club, where all the stars are doing spots in a small club.
Fantastic.
And it's going to be really neat, surprising. And they have the Uncle Buck and the exhibits and tickets to that, and then the opening gala. And that's for Kemp. It's Keaton House. We're giving proceeds of that evening to a local hospice. The Kemp Hospice is building, and you don't want to put these words together very often, children's hospice.
Right.
And it's for their capital raise. So we're giving money to that.
On a great cause. That's fantastic. Yeah. I'd watch a Sean Majumder late night talk show every night of the week. I mean, I've seen him perform live a few times. He's a serious-minded guy, Sean. Like I saw his show Hate, and then I followed it with Love. And it's the themes. You're there for a real mind-bending experience, and I'm a huge fan of his. So what a great opportunity for him to show off his skills. Yeah. So many great comedians you mentioned there that'll be part of all this. And Steve Smith, what a hero to me. As someone who's covered TV in Canada, I just, that's like trying to crawl up Everest with feet in cement to make a Canadian TV show. And he did it for years and years and years without taking like a lot of government money, or he just knocked on doors and sold it, and he didn't let anybody stop him, right?
Yeah, he was a force. He was funny. Him and Morag, their show Smith and Smith was funny. I remember watching that. And then the Comedy Mill was a forerunner to I guess it was Air Farce produced at Sketchcom, but they were doing it first, and they had the people, Meg and Linda Cash,
Peter
Callahan.
It was a wonderful idea. And from that came Red Green, the character, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Sketches. Yeah. I can't be more of a fan than I am of Steve Smith. He's great. I love that he would sell it to PBS stations in the States.
Yes.
And he did. He would go on in character as Red Green, right? And he would say, if you like our show, send some money. If you don't like it, send a lot of money, and then they can afford to buy something better. You know, I just thought, oh my God,
It's so straightforward. It's the soul of Canada, really.
Yeah, it is. It is the soul of Canada. You're right, Tim. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. I've got I don't know, about 1,000 meetings this afternoon.
Oh, you must be really, really busy. So I'll let you get at all of that. It's very exciting. And I wish you the best of luck. You're 3 years in Hamilton. Do you think by the end of 3, you may have a destination, a brick and mortar property that you could look to?
I think we'll have that by the summer of hopefully. I'm hoping to an announcement. See, I can't stop working. I'm a workaholic, and this is one of the things. It's Hamilton's being renovated downtown now.
Yeah,
and so if the time is now, like if you wait 3 years to try to work on the permanent home, it's not going to happen. We're starting right now. There's various government funds that are opening in ministries. There's a federal development ministry for Southwestern Ontario that are encouraging this kind of development. Tourism is an economic driver. It's proven to be an economic driver. And when you make tourism and entertainment together, then you're really driving the economy. And it's going to be something. I'm looking around. Actually, I'm going to be meeting with a real estate agent in about 20 minutes to talk about a building that's just down the street from me. I moved here. I moved to Hamilton to be
amazing
to get give it a good shot.
You could have had my house in Brampton. I just sold it last week. Now you tell me. Before you go quickly.
Hey, I'm a Canadian entertainer. I don't own a house anymore.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're going to be owning a lot more than that. Listen, what are you watching right now? What's your favorite show on TV? If you have time to watch TV, what makes you laugh?
I watch a lot of sports because I still coach high school football, but I watch Reacher for the mindless going on. I just find that kind of entertaining, and that's been my go-to lately
on Prime Video. Very good. When you were growing up in Ottawa, was there a show you used to run home from school to see? Did you have a favorite TV show?
A Party Game.
Look at talk about Billy Van. I never missed that.
Well, it was a Party Game, and then I made some notes here. It was that and Get Smart.
Oh,
that really
combo.
Yeah, it was those two shows that I really, really, really wanted to watch.
I'm trying to remember. There was a French Canadian lady who would come on Party Game who was just the most provocative, sexy person on television.
Well, was it more than Dinah Christie?
Dinah was right up
goddess.
There. Absolutely, she was a goddess, and definitely someone we should remember. She's still with us and was a great part of that show. The rest of the cast is all gone, sadly, but. That's a great choice, Tim. Finally, your all-time favorite TV theme song.
I'm split on this.
Okay.
I like Cheers.
Yeah.
Because it's
beautiful.
When it started, it just kind of I'm calming down. And then the other one, because I used to, when I was doing stand-up by myself, and I wasn't that funny, although Russell Peters opened for me one night.
Wow.
Way back in the day. But I used to make the audience and divide them into categories to do the Get Smart thing. So you'd have one part going da 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 da, and then the middle part would go da 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 da, and then you'd point to the third group and they go da da da. So it was my closing bit. So.
That's a good time in a comedy club. That's a good piece of business there. Tim, been a pleasure. Love to talk to you again. Looking forward to your events. Let's remind people the dates are Feb 21 to 24. Are they generally?
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And you can get tickets again at the Comedy Hall of Fame.
CanadianComedyHall.com.
Go there, look it up. You'll see packed wall-to-wall comedy, and you'll be honoring these giants. The cast of SCTV, Eugene Levy, Martin Short. The list goes on and on. It's just a stunning one. The Air Farce, everybody else. So, Tim, my hat is off to you, man. This is a amazing and a worthy cause. Pace yourself and break a leg, as they say in the clubs, and hope to see you during some of this and visit your Hall of Fame soon.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you for this. It's first of all, it's great to meet you virtually, but and nice thanks for support, and thank you for supporting Canadian entertainment.
Oh, what a great thing to support. Happy to do it, Tim. Great to meet you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks to our Hall of Fame producer here at Brio TV, Phil Hong. Give it up to BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, and all the crispy critters, as well as piano man Steve Dudley, who many years ago recorded the music you hear on this podcast. Finally, thanks to you, listener. If you enjoyed this conversation, let us know with a like or a comment at Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.